Have you ever felt like life was closing in on you? Like no matter how hard you tried, nothing seemed to work out? Maybe you faced moments when the world seemed silent to your pain and your dreams felt like distant whispers fading into the noise of everyday struggle. You've put in the effort, stayed up late, sacrificed time and comfort, but the breakthrough never came. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops, but also never takes you anywhere. People around you smile and succeed, while you wonder if you're the only one stuck in a cycle you can't break. But here's the truth. You're not alone. The most extraordinary journeys often begin in the darkest places. Some of the most successful people you admire were once drowning in failure, disappointment, and fear. They questioned everything. They were broke, broken, or both. But what separates their story from those who give up isn't luck. It's something much deeper. There comes a moment, sometimes in silence and solitude, when a single thought sparks change. It might be a moment of frustration so strong that you swear you'll never live like this again. Or it's a whisper inside that says, you're meant for more. That tiny flicker can become a fire if you choose to feed it. Change doesn't come in a flash. It comes with a decision to rise, to push forward, even if everything still hurts. If you've ever felt like giving up, let this be your sign to hold on. Because the struggle you're in today is shaping the strength you'll need tomorrow. And once you rise, really rise, you'll understand that the pain wasn't there to stop you. It was there to prepare you. Every person has a story. Some stories begin with comfort and ease while others start in the shadows, where pain, confusion, and hardship are daily companions. But no matter where the story begins, what truly matters is where it goes. At some point in life, we all face moments that test our spirit. Whether it's the loss of a job, the breakdown of a relationship, financial ruin, health battles, or the heavy silence of loneliness, these challenges, they come for everyone. What makes the difference is not whether the struggle shows up, but how we respond when it does. Many of us grow up believing that success is reserved for the lucky, the privileged, or the exceptionally talented. But when we look closer at the lives of those who've achieved true success, not just wealth or fame, but fulfillment, purpose, and joy, we often discover something surprising. Their journey wasn't a straight line. In fact, the path was jagged, unpredictable, and filled with moments when quitting seemed like the easiest option. But they didn't quit. They made a different choice. There's something deeply powerful about hearing the stories of people who've walked through fire and came out stronger. These are the people who didn't just survive their struggles. They used them. They turned breakdowns into breakthroughs. They transformed rejection into redirection. Each story is a reminder that the human spirit is more resilient than we think, and that within each of us lies a potential far greater than we've been led to believe. This isn't about fairy tales or overnight success. This is about real people with real problems who found the strength to rise. It's about discovering that rock bottom can become the foundation for something incredible. And it's about realizing that maybe, just maybe, the challenges we face are not the end of our story. They're the beginning of a new chapter. In the next few moments, you'll hear powerful stories that reflect what's possible when ordinary individuals make extraordinary choices. These aren't just tales of success. They're roadmaps for anyone who's ever felt lost, stuck, or broken. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You don't even need to know how it ends. All you need is the willingness to believe that something greater is still possible. And if others can rise from their darkest moments, so can you. Struggle doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it creeps in quietly. It starts with small disappointments, missed opportunities, broken promises, the slow erosion of hope. Over time, it builds, the weight gets heavier. Suddenly, you're waking up every day with a knot in your stomach, wondering how things got this far off track. For many, it's the feeling of being stuck, trapped in a life that doesn't reflect who they truly are. They may be working tirelessly, but getting nowhere, pouring effort into relationships that never seem to heal, or chasing goals that feel further away with every step forward. Some people face more tangible struggles, a job loss that shatters their sense of stability, debt that keeps them awake at night, a diagnosis that changes everything. Others carry emotional burdens that can't be seen, fear, anxiety, self-doubt, or the quiet belief that they're not good enough. These inner battles are just as real, just as painful, and often even more paralyzing because they're invisible to the outside world. The hardest part about these challenges is that they make you question your own worth. When failure hits repeatedly, it's easy to start believing that maybe success just isn't meant for you. Maybe the life you dreamed of as a child was naive, unrealistic. The voices in your head grow louder. You're not smart enough. You've messed up too many times. It's too late. Over time, these thoughts can feel like truth, convincing people to play small, to settle, to survive. And then there's isolation, the belief that you're the only one going through it. Social media makes it worse, showing perfectly filtered lives while hiding the behind-the-scenes breakdowns. It creates a false sense of failure. Everyone else seems to have it together. Why don't you? But the truth is, behind every confident smile, every polished appearance, there's a story, a struggle, a mountain that had to be climbed. Pain is universal. Struggle is human. And yet so many suffer in silence, waiting for something or someone to rescue them. This is where the real challenge lies, not in the external circumstances, but in the internal decision to keep going, to stand up one more time, to believe, even when there's no visible reason to. That belief, that tiny flicker in the middle of the storm, is where transformation begins. And it's often born in the very moments when giving up feels like the only option. Change rarely comes in a dramatic flash. It often begins with a quiet moment, an ordinary day where something finally clicks. The person who's been barely holding on realizes they can't keep living this way. It's not always a loud declaration. Sometimes it's a silent decision to try one more time. That moment, small as it may seem, is powerful because once the decision is made, the direction begins to shift. For many who have turned their lives around, the journey started with a simple step. They began reading, listening, learning, searching for answers beyond their current reality. Some wrote down their goals for the first time in years. Others finally asked for help, something they once viewed as weakness. Slowly, they began to see that while the world might not change overnight, they could. And that changed everything. They started doing the hard inner work, facing past wounds, challenging long-held beliefs, forgiving themselves for mistakes. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't always pretty, but it was real. They began to understand that success wasn't about perfection, but persistence. Each time they fell, they stood up faster. Each time they felt fear, they leaned into it rather than running away. They surrounded themselves with people who pushed them, not pitied them. And most importantly, they took action, even when they were scared, even when they didn't feel ready. The shift wasn't just mental. Their actions changed too. They restructured their days. They built better habits. They let go of toxic relationships and stopped waiting for permission to chase their dreams. What once seemed impossible slowly became achievable, not through massive leaps, but through consistent steps. Progress replaced paralysis. Clarity replaced confusion. And with every small victory came confidence. They no longer needed approval from the outside because they found strength from within. They discovered that adversity was not a signal to stop, but a call to grow. It was no longer about avoiding pain, but about learning through it. Every failure became a lesson, every setback a setup for the next move. This is the heart of transformation, not the absence of struggle, but the decision to rise above it. These individuals didn't wait for motivation to strike. They created their own momentum. They became the authors of their story, rewriting their identity, not based on who they had been, but on who they chose to become. And in doing so, they discovered that the power to change had been within them all along. There comes a point in every journey where the tension reaches its peak, a moment that demands a choice. It's not always dramatic or loud. Sometimes it's a quiet stare into the mirror, a breaking point, or a final straw that snaps something inside. But in that raw, honest moment, everything changes. The person who once felt powerless suddenly realizes they have more control than they ever believed. Not over the world around them, but over their response, their mindset, and their direction forward. One man sat alone in a tiny apartment, rent overdue, job applications unanswered, self-worth in pieces. He stared at the ceiling, tears in his eyes, until the silence became unbearable. And then, almost without thinking, he stood up, pulled out an old notebook, and wrote the words, "This is not how my story ends." That sentence became a turning point. It didn't erase the problems, but it gave him a reason to fight. Another woman, years into a toxic relationship, woke up one morning and looked at her reflection. The eyes staring back didn't belong to the person she remembered. She didn't know exactly what came next, but she knew one thing: staying the same would cost her everything. That day, she packed her things, not with certainty, but with courage. It was the first decision she made purely for herself, and it set her free. These moments, so personal, yet so powerful, mark the beginning of transformation. The moment when enough is enough, when fear is no longer stronger than hope, when the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the fear of change. And what follows is extraordinary. Energy returns, focus sharpens, a sense of purpose begins to rise. With each decision, no matter how small, the old version of themselves starts to fade. They realize they don't have to be a victim of their past or a prisoner of their circumstances. They can become something more, something stronger. This isn't fiction. These are the moments that shape real lives. When people choose to rise in the face of exhaustion, when they commit to growth even when they're scared. The road ahead is never guaranteed, but something inside shifts, and once it does, there's no going back. The breakthrough doesn't come from the world outside, it comes from within. And once it happens, life is never quite the same again. What these stories reveal is something deeply human, something we all carry within us, even if it gets buried beneath doubt, fear, or failure. They show that no matter how far someone has fallen, no matter how impossible things may seem, there is always a way forward. Not an easy way, not a shortcut, but a path built through decisions, effort, and the refusal to let circumstances define the outcome. The people who rose from hardship didn't have superpowers. They weren't handed perfect opportunities or guaranteed success. What they did have was a turning point, a moment when they realized that staying the same was no longer an option. From there, they chose to rise. Step by step, they rebuilt their lives with a mix of grit, belief, and consistent action. And in doing so, they proved that struggle is not the end of the story. It can be the beginning of something remarkable. Everyone faces obstacles. That's part of life. But what these individuals discovered is that it's not the obstacle that matters most. It's how you respond to it. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can use it as an excuse, or you can use it as fuel. The difference lies in the choices you make, even when the odds feel stacked against you. These stories are more than just inspiration. They are reminders that we all have untapped strength, buried potential, and the ability to change our direction. Even in the darkest times, there's a spark of possibility waiting to be ignited. And when it is, it lights the way, not just for the one who rises, but for everyone watching who thought they couldn't. This is the power of the human spirit, to endure, to grow, and to transform. These people didn't just bounce back, they came back better, wiser, and stronger. Their stories remind us that rock bottom isn't the end. It's a place to begin again with more clarity, more purpose, and more heart than ever before. If you've ever doubted your path or questioned your strength, remember this: your story isn't over. Your next chapter hasn't been written yet, and it can still be the one that changes everything. The only thing that matters now is what you choose to do next. Now it's your turn. You know, you've heard the stories, you've felt the struggles, maybe even seen your own reflection in them, but this isn't just about what others have done. It's about what you are capable of doing. No matter where you are right now, no matter how stuck, lost, or overwhelmed you may feel, there is a next step waiting for you. And it starts with a decision. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to tolerate in my life? What is one small action I can take today that moves me closer to who I want to become? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be something. A conversation, a choice, a boundary, a commitment. One honest step forward. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The truth is, most breakthroughs happen in the middle of chaos, not in calm. Growth doesn't wait for permission. It shows up when you choose to lean into the discomfort instead of running from it. You've been through enough. You've carried the weight long enough. Now it's time to channel that pain into progress, to stop just surviving and start creating a life that reflects your strength, your values, and your dreams. This moment, right here, right now, can be the start of your turning point, but only if you claim it. Don't let fear or self-doubt talk you out of it this time. Don't wait for someone else to save you or for life to magically fix itself. You have everything you need to begin again. So stand up, breathe deep, and take that first step toward the life you deserve, because nothing changes until you decide to. And once you do, you'll realize that the power to rise was always in your hands. Make the choice, take the step, start the journey. Your future is waiting